science story, huh?
These NYU scientists,
I felt
right.
But I was so
And I just thought, well,
I had figured it out.
It was that golden moment.
Because science was on my side.
Hey everyone, Happy New Year! Welcome to The Story Clatter, where true personal stories about science help us explore just how weird, wonderful, and deeply human this world can be. I'm your host, Misha Gajewski, and today, both of our storytellers got a little too cocky, a little too confident, a little too self-assured, much like I am with my New Year's resolutions. And then, they quickly found out that they maybe didn't have it figured out. I can't wait for y'all to hear these stories. Let's dive in. Our first story comes from J.R. Denson, a full-time college educator, a part-time EMT, and a storyteller who's been featured on the Moth Radio Hour. His story was recorded last year at the Baltimore Theater Project. Here's his story.
The summer between 7th and 8th grade, I was really into making homemade French fries. And I still like to cook and make homemade French fries now, but like then it was like new and it was fun. And I'm getting the potatoes and I'm peeling them, I'm cutting them, I'm eating them, frying them. It's delicious. Maybe not all in that order. And one day, I'm preparing some fries to get ready to drop in the oil, and my house is the meetup house for all of my other preteen friends. And so I'm getting ready to drop these fries, and then DJ comes over, and so I go ahead and put them in the oil, and then DJ and I go down to the basement to play some video games. And we're down there, and we're having some Mortal Kombat. It's great. And then my sister comes down to the basement, and she says, "Brother, I think you should come upstairs because your French fries, they're on fire." I'm like, I've seen movies, and every time in a movie or a TV show where there's a fire, the person is yelling and screaming and running, and there's like drama, and she's doing none of that. Like, she's way too calm. This is a prank. She's a liar. So I'm like, go upstairs, leave me alone. We're playing this game. And she does. She goes back upstairs. We keep playing our game. And then about a minute and a half later, she comes back and she's like, "Brother, I really think you should come upstairs because your French fries, they're on fire." And I'm like, "Look, I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to look at them fries. And if there's not a fire, we're going to have a problem." And so we go up there, and me, my sister, and DJ's excited because either way, he's getting a show. It's either going to be a fire or a fight. Fire, fight, he's excited. So we get up to the kitchen, and sure enough, there's a flame in the frying pan. And to this day, I maintain that I did what any rational 12-year-old boy would do. I went to the cupboard, I got a cup, I took that cup to the sink, I filled that cup up full of water, and I threw that water into the frying pan. I know. Oppenheimer. The first nuclear explosion over American soil is in my kitchen right now. And I'm freaking out, and my sister is crying, and DJ is singing. "We didn't start the fire. It was always burning as the world was turning." And I know what I did wrong. The problem is I did not use enough water. I know. So I get that cup and I go back to the sink and I fill that cup up full of water. And this is just in time. I told you my house is the meetup house. And so right as I'm getting ready to take care of this fire, my other friends show up just in time to witness the second nuclear explosion over American soil. As I throw this water into the frying pan and the mushroom cloud goes up to the ceiling. And I am terrified. And my sister is like a mess. And DJ has recruited the rest of the boys into his pop chorus boy band, singing more songs. The roof is on fire. We don't need no water. Let that mother. I'm like, hey, Hey, shut up. I can't think. Give me a minute. I know what I did wrong. I need more water. So I find 2 pot holders, and I put one on each hand, and I grab that pot, and I throw it into the sink, and I flip on the sink, and finally the water goes out. The fire goes out. The water is still running, thank God. And DJ comes over to the sink. He pulls out one of the French fries, and he eats it, and he's like, oh, man, these are good. Like, thanks a lot, DJ. I'm glad to know that my mother will be pleased to hear that no fries were harmed in the making of this World War II documentary. And so I'm surveying the chaos, the damage, the weeping and the gnashing of teeth. And I'm looking around at what's going on in this kitchen, and then I'm watching out the window as this fire truck is roaming up and down the street. And I'll be honest, I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure. Living in a row house in D.C., the smoke detector's going off, there's a whole lot of smoke, there's a whole lot of fire, and somebody that lives right next to us does not want their house to burn down, so they've called 911, but of course, the fire truck doesn't know which house is on fire, so they're just roaming up and down the street looking for the chaos, but they can't find it because we have done everything that we could do to hide the destruction from the fire department. And so I'm like, we have to fix this. My mom's gonna come home, none of y'all even are supposed to be here, we have got to fix this kitchen, and we gotta fix it now. And the first place we gotta start is the ceiling, because I look up at the ceiling, and right above the stove, it's black, and that's a problem because it was white. Half of the ceiling is for sure black, and the other half behind me is white, and so I'm like, we gotta clean the kitchen. We're gonna start here, we're gonna get some mops and rags, and we're gonna clean the ceiling, and we quickly learn that this char is not coming off. And so if I can't make the whole ceiling white, I've got to make the whole ceiling gray. So we're just going to smear this charredness all over the kitchen ceiling, and DJ has got the boy band singing more songs like these fire spirituals. This ceiling's on fire. This ceiling's on fire. I know we can't stop at the kitchen, because I know my mom, when she comes home and she senses anything is wrong, like she's gonna start investigating. So I gotta get ahead of this woman. So we can't stop at the ceiling and the kitchen. We gotta clean the whole house. We used all of the bleach and Pine Sol and air freshener in the entire tri-state area, making sure this house did not smell like a campfire. And luckily for me, my mom at the time was driving this old hoopty beater car that backfired. And so, like, people that weren't, around my house a lot would be like, oh, man, like, what's that popping? Is that a drive-by? Like, nah, this is my mom. 2-minute drill. Let's go. Rags in the bin. Boys out the house. We got to get out of here. And so we're doing all of that stuff. We got the 2-minute drill going, and then we kick the boys out. And then my mom pulls up in the driveway, and then me and my sister, we stand in the hallway right by the door. We're like these 5-star hotel staff, White Lotus style. We're standing there waiting for my mom to come in. And she comes in, and of course this is weird, because why are her children standing at the door like hotel staff? We're professionals. And it's weird, but she doesn't see anything obviously off. Yes, the house smells super clean, but that's not bad, right? Nothing appears to be broken, and so she's not sure what's up, but she goes on up to her room, because that's her evening routine. She comes home, she checks in on us, and she heads on up to her room before coming back down, to spend time with us. A few months later, we're getting ready to move out of this rental that we have. And many of you, if you've rented before, you know that when you rent a place, you put down a deposit, and that deposit you get back if you haven't burned your house down. And so I'm not there. Actually, my mom is telling my sister this funny story about the inspection, about how she was in the unit with the manager that was coming through to inspect the unit, and how this manager is telling my mother that there's fire damage in the kitchen and she's going to have to pay for that. And my mom tells him, I'm a strong, independent woman. I am the adult in this house. I know everything that happens in this house. Nothing happens in this house without me knowing. How dare you insinuate I would not know there was a fire or fire damage in this kitchen? If there was fire damage in this kitchen, it was here before we moved in, and you simply missed it. I will not pay these charges, and you will take care of it yourself. And he said, my apologies. I think that if there's fire damage in this kitchen, it was maybe here before you moved in and we simply missed it. And she's like, you right. And so she's telling my sister this funny story because, isn't that funny, Misha? Isn't that funny that this happened? And my sister goes, well, what happened was... Yeah. And my mom was like, we didn't pay that deposit, though. I walk around every day with a computer in my pocket. And to this day, I cannot tell you exactly why you should not put water on an oil fire. But I can tell you that if you're 12 and you almost burned down your mother's house, clean the whole house. It works every time.
One, I was so excited when I heard that JR's sister is also named Misha. 2, his mom sounds like a total badass. And 3, since I looked it up, water doesn't work on oil fires because water is denser than oil and it sinks beneath it. So now you know. If you'd like to learn more about JR, head to our website, storyclatter.org. Being a storyteller is just one way to make Storyclatter happen, but not everyone is comfortable in the spotlight, and that's okay. Because even behind the scenes, your support helps make sure Storyclatter can keep sharing stories like this. Now, more than ever, we need to amplify the voices of scientists and science communicators, whose stories might go otherwise unheard. At Storyclatter, we believe that true personal stories can cut through the noise, bringing science to life, building trust, and helping people connect on a deeply human level. Our donors make that possible. They help us produce this podcast, share powerful stories, and keep the conversation going. If you believe in the power of science storytelling, please consider making a donation at storyclatter.org/donate. Most people give around $10 a month, and every tax-deductible contribution, big or small, helps us ensure that science has a voice. Thank you for helping us keep these stories alive. Our next story is from writer, comedian, and molecular biologist Adam Ruben. His story was recorded last year at one of our go-to spots in New York, Hudson River Park's Discovery Tank at Pier 57. Here's Adam.
So one thing I've learned in my career as a scientist is that you can love something, feel very passionately about it. It can feel very rewarding to you, both intellectually and creatively, and yet not start working on it until the night before it's due. When I was growing up, I did this thing called Science Olympiad, which was this really super fun series of events. You'd spend most of the school year building something, and then in the spring, you'd bring it to the university for the big competition day. I built Rube Goldberg machines. I made musical instruments. I trained a hamster to run a maze. I built a car powered by a mousetrap, not in the same event as the hamster in the maze. Run, hamster, run. No, it was not that. And this one particular year in high school, I decided to do an event called It's About Time. The event was about birds. No, it wasn't about birds. It was about time. The idea was you're supposed to, ridiculous, you're supposed to build a clock yourself at home using no commercially available clock parts. And then you'd bring your clock to the competition, and the moderator would say start and stop, and you would time the intervals and see how accurate you could get with your homemade clock. And it's the night before we have this big competition. I'm at home, and I'm looking at my clock, and I want you to picture what this clock looks like, okay? I'm gesturing at nothing because I have nothing. I have not built a clock. And it's because I was doing what I always did as a kid. I procrastinated. I put things off till the last minute, even if it was something that I knew I would enjoy doing. And I wish I could say, like, well, I had a very busy social calendar, but I'm a scientist. We all know that's not true. or even that it was just like because of my classes or clubs or something. But I know what I was doing at that time in my life. I was playing a ton of Game Boy. That's all it was. I had a Game Boy. I remember that I learned how to beat Super Mario Land 2, and then I learned how to beat Super Mario Land 2 playing only with one hand. And then, and I'm not making this up, I learned how to beat Super Mario Land 2 playing with my toes. So that's what I was doing when I should have been building a damn clock. So it's the night before, and I'm walking around my house, I'm going, clock. And this is pre-internet, so I can't like look up how you make a clock. So I started thinking like, all right, how did people measure time before they had clocks? Sundial, competition's indoors and doesn't do seconds. Hourglass. Sand in an hourglass. I don't have sand. I don't have an hourglass, but I can make something similar. So I get a Ziploc baggie. I fill it with water. Take a little safety pin. I poke a hole in the Ziploc bag, and the bag goes drip, drip, drip. And I time the drips. I time about 100 drips. I take an average. And okay, that's one drip every 1.54 seconds. So that's how I'm going to enter the competition. That's my clock. When they say go, I'm going to count the drips till they say stop, multiply by 1.54, and that is how many seconds have elapsed. And this seems like a really great solution. I'm pretty proud of myself till I show up the next day and I see what happens when a kid spends 6 months building a clock. And oh my God. There are clocks like taller than me. There are clocks with pendulum. Some of the clocks actually use lasers. Kids are saying things like, oh no, the humidity has warped the escarpment. We better modify the oscillator to compensate. And meanwhile, I'm pulling this shriveled bag out of my pocket, still moist from the night before. And I'm like, anyone know where I could fill this up? So the moderator says, okay, you got a couple minutes to calibrate your clocks. And kids are like taking the arc sine of the pendulum angle, or however you calibrate a clock. Well, no, never built one. I'm holding my clock, filled with water. I hold it up over this lab sink, and the bag goes drip, 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 drip. I'm like shit. Because somehow overnight that tiny little pinhole got a little bit less tiny. And now it's just a steady stream of water coming out of the bag. There's no discrete drips. There's nothing to count. There's no 1.54 seconds. And I have no clock. All I have is a Ziploc bag that can pee. And now the moderator says, ready, go. And so I start thinking again, okay, what did people do before they had clocks? Sundial, sand thing, water thing. And then my next thought is, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. And I'm staring at my bag, pretending it's giving me some information. But in my head, I'm just 1,000, 6, 1,000. And then when the moderator says stop, I'm at 74, 1,000. So I write down 74 seconds. And she does, okay, go for the next interval of time. And that's how I get through the competition. I stare at this meaningless bag while I'm 1,000ing in my head. Although at some point I think I upgraded the precision of my internal clock and I switched from 1,000s to Mississippis. And so that's how I time every interval. And later in the day, they have the awards ceremony and there are all these kids hugging their giant clocks. And then they announce that I have won 9th place in the state. So I learned a couple of lessons from this right away. First, I learned that sometimes as a scientist, you have to solve problems with whatever materials you have at hand, even when it's not what you want to have. I also learned that sometimes the best solution to a problem is the stupid solution, or at least that's the 9th best solution, because the best solutions were whatever the 8 kids ahead of me did. Those are better. And I also learned that if you want to place in a statewide science competition, it is very helpful to have the state be Delaware. So go Blue Hens. And now it is 30 years later, and I wish I could say I don't procrastinate anymore. I learned some lesson about that, but I still do. I think all of us do to some extent. But I no longer waste these giant blocks of time doing nothing. I have not touched video games since I deliberately deleted Angry Birds from my Droid in 2011. not a game. And I think I don't procrastinate now just because I've got other things to do as an adult. I have a job. I have a house. I've got 3 kids, for goodness sake. My youngest is in kindergarten. My oldest this week just started high school. So my time is spent preparing meals and washing dishes and folding laundry and reading bedtime stories and driving people places. I don't have time to procrastinate. And I think my younger self would find that to be a pretty good outcome. And he would say, well, that's wonderful. You've moved past this. It's about time. Thank you.
Well, good to know counting Mississippis is a pretty accurate time measurement. And if you'd like to learn more about Adam or hear his other stories that have been on our podcast, visit our website, storyclatter.org. If you want more Storyclatter content, check out our website or follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. If you want to come to one of our shows, start your own Storyclatter show in your community, or even learn how to tell your own science story, you can learn all about that on our website too. And if you enjoy this podcast, tell a friend. Share an episode, introduce someone to the Storyclatter, and help bring more people into the world of science storytelling. This podcast is produced by me, Misha Gajewski, along with Jen Chen, Nikisha Roberts-Washington, and Aaron Barker, Executive Director and co-founder of the Storyclatter. The stories featured in today's episode were produced by Shane Hanlon, Mariam Zaring-Halam, Christine Williams, and Grant Bowen. Special thanks goes out to the Storyclatter's board and team. Our theme music is by Ghost, and next week I'll be back with 2 fascinating stories about AI. You won't want to miss them. Until next time, thanks so much for listening. Looking for a podcast to help you survive and actually thrive this holiday season? Check out All the Hacks. All the Hacks is hosted by Chris Hutchins, a financial optimizer who's been everywhere, literally. He's traveled to 60+ countries, racked up millions of rewards points, and sold 2 companies. And if you're like me and planning to travel over the holidays, you've got to check out the Airport Lounge episode with Kevin Song. It was so useful. He breaks down exactly how to access the best lounges, even if you're not flying first class, shares underrated perks, and gives you the inside scoop on how to actually avoid crowded lounges. I'm definitely going to be using all these tips and tricks this season and anytime I travel. All the Hacks is full of practical tips you can start using right away. Plus, the guests are always great. You'll hear from people like skateboard legend Tony Hawk, 3-time Olympic gold medalist Carrie Walsh Jennings, and a whole roster of scientists and experts who are on top of their game. So do yourself a favor, search for All the Hacks, that's All the Hacks in your podcast app, hit follow, and start upgrading your life today.